I spent $30,000 on my sister-in-law's dream wedding. At her bridal shower, in front of 50 guests, she pointed at my newborn son and screamed at her fiancé, "He has your eyes. I demand a DNA test." Then she turned to me, "And you're out of the wedding. They say you can't choose your family, but I always believed you could build one." It was a philosophy born from a quiet childhood. Growing up, my world was shaped by the rhythmic hum of my mother's sewing machine and the savory scent of my father's faux simmering late into the night. They were Vietnamese immigrants who poured every ounce of their being into their small restaurant. Their love for me measured in the sacrifices they made and the opportunities they were building. But their exhaustion left little room for the noise and clutter of a large family. I was a solitary child, and while other kids longed for toys or trips to Disneyland, I longed for the sound of sisters' laughter down the hall, the thrill of a shared secret, the simple comfort of knowing someone else was there. When I married Mark, I didn't just fall in love with him. I fell in love with the idea of his family. He had parents, grandparents, cousins, and most importantly, he had a sister, Chloe. The first time I met her, she was a whirlwind of bright energy and easy smiles. I saw in her everything I had ever wanted: a confidant, a partner in crime, a sister. I decided then and there that I would build a bridge to her, one so strong that nothing could ever shake it. I remember one evening years ago when that bridge truly began to take shape. Chloe was 19, her heart shattered by some college boy who hadn't deserved it in the first place. I found her curled up on her childhood bed, the room a mess of tear-soaked tissues and angsty music. I didn't offer platitudes. I just sat with her, made her tea, and listened. After hours of quiet sobbing, she looked at me with red-rimmed eyes and whispered, "I just want to feel like I'm worth something amazing, you know?" My heart ached for her. In that moment, looking at this girl who was a storm of insecurity and longing, I saw a younger version of myself. One day, I promised, my voice soft but certain, "You'll have the wedding of your dreams, the kind that heals all hurts. The kind that screams to the world how amazing you are. And I'll be there to help make it happen for you." That promise became my North Star in our relationship. Over the years, I became the family stable center. I was the one who remembered birthdays, organized holiday dinners, the one they called in a crisis. And I poured my success from my marketing career into being the generous daughter-in-law, the sister Chloe could count on. When she and Liam got engaged, I knew my moment had come. Liam was a good man, kind and grounded. He was also, like me, a second-generation Vietnamese American, and we fell into an easy, comfortable friendship built on shared cultural shorthand. We could laugh about our parents' superstitions and debate which restaurant had the most authentic bun boy hue. It was a platonic, sibling-like bond, but I started to notice how Chloe watched us. There was a flicker of something in her eyes, a tightness around her smile when she saw us talking. If Liam and I were chatting in a mix of English and Vietnamese, she would glide over, wrap her arm possessively around his, and say with a high-pitched laugh, "I love it when you two talk secrets. It's like our own little family mystery." I brushed it off as pre-wedding jitters. My husband, Mark, simply said, "That's just Chloe. She likes to be the center of attention." I didn't listen to the warning bells. Instead, I doubled down on my promise. A dream wedding, I had said. So I gave her one. I sat down with my financial planner, moved assets, and wrote a check. It wasn't just a contribution. I funded the entire event. The historic venue with its sweeping gardens, the gourmet caterer, the sought-after photographer, and the couture wedding gown she'd fallen in love with. It was over $30,000. Mark was stunned. "Clara, are you sure? That's a down payment on a house." "It's for your sister," I said, my voice filled with a conviction I desperately wanted to feel. "It's the foundation of our family. This isn't just money, it's a statement. It's the final brick in the bridge I've been building to her." I believed it with every fiber of my being. The birth of our son, Leo, 6 weeks before the wedding, felt like the beautiful, culminating chapter of my perfect family story. He was a piece of me and a piece of Mark, a new generation to bind us all together. Everyone was overjoyed, especially Liam. He was a natural with Leo, holding him with a tenderness that was so touching to see. He would rock him gently, whispering to him in Vietnamese, telling him what a strong little man he was going to be. The week before the bridal shower, I was at Chloe's final dress fitting. She looked breathtaking, a vision in ivory lace. As she twirled in front of the mirror, Liam was watching, but his gaze drifted over to me, where I was rocking a fussy Leo in my arms. He gave me a small, empathetic smile. "Rough night?" he mouthed. I nodded, smiling back tiredly. From her pedestal, Chloe saw the exchange. The smile on her face faltered for a second. Later, as we were leaving, she said, her tone just a little too bright, "Liam is so good with the baby. He just adores him. You know, some people might find it interesting how attached he is." I laughed, a real, genuine laugh. "He's just excited to be an uncle, Chloe. And he's probably getting in some practice for when you two have kids." She looked at me, her eyes unreadable. "Practice," she repeated slowly, then forced that high-pitched, nervous laugh. "Right, practice." That was the last moment of peace. I walked away from that fitting feeling a deep sense of satisfaction. The dress was paid for. The shower was planned. The wedding was a month away. My beautiful, chosen family was about to be sealed forever. I was so focused on the fantasy I had built that I didn't see the rot spreading right at its foundation. I had laid every brick of that bridge with love and sacrifice, never realizing she was waiting on the other side with a sledgehammer. My garden had never looked more beautiful. It was the perfect afternoon for a bridal shower, one of those golden California days where the sun feels like a blessing. I'd orchestrated every detail with the precision of a military campaign. Pastel streamers fluttered from the old oak tree. Tables were adorned with peonies and roses, and a string quartet played softly in the corner. The air smelled of blossoms and expensive perfume. 50 women, a sea of smiling faces and summer dresses, were scattered across the lawn, sipping champagne and laughing. It was the physical manifestation of everything I had worked for, a perfect, happy, beautiful family affair. I stood on the patio, holding my 6-week-old son, Leo, feeling a profound sense of contentment. Chloe was radiant, the undisputed queen of the day. She moved through the crowd, accepting gifts and compliments, her laughter ringing through the garden. I watched her and my heart swelled. This was it. This was the joy I had paid for, the connection I had built. Liam had arrived a few minutes earlier to drop off a gift from his mother. He was immediately drawn to the bassinet where Leo was sleeping. He knelt, his face softening as he watched my son. "He's amazing, Clara," he said, his voice full of genuine awe. "He looks so much like you." Chloe, seeing him, glided over. "Isn't he a doll?" she said, her hand possessively on Liam's shoulder. "Everyone says he has my brother's smile." The atmosphere was light, flawless. The quartet began a new song. I took a sip of my water, feeling the warmth of the sun on my shoulders. It was in that moment of perfect peace that the world tilted on its axis. Chloe had gone still. Her smile had vanished, replaced by a strange, tight mask. She was staring intently at Leo, then at Liam, then back at Leo. Her breathing became shallow. "What is it, honey?" Liam asked, his brow furrowed in concern. She didn't answer him. Instead, she straightened up and took a step back. Her voice, when it came, was not her own. It was a thin, sharp thing that sliced through the music and the laughter, silencing everything. "His eyes," she said, her voice trembling with a horrifying, new energy. 50 conversations stopped. 50 pairs of eyes turned to her. She pointed a shaking finger at my sleeping baby. "They're your eyes, Liam. Your exact eyes." The world seemed to go into slow motion. I could see the confusion on Liam's face, the nervous shifting of the guests, the first flicker of panic in my mother-in-law Carol's eyes. I felt a cold dread begin to creep up my spine. This wasn't a joke. I've been seeing it for weeks, Chloe continued, her voice rising in pitch and volume, feeding on the captive audience. "And I can't do this. I can't stand here and pretend I don't see it." She spun around, addressing the entire party, her arms wide as if she were a tragic heroine in a play. "I demand a paternity test." A collective gasp went through the crowd. The air crackled with shock. My mind simply refused to process the words. It felt like a language I didn't understand. Paternity test? My Leo? My vision tunneled, the beautiful garden fading to a blur at the edges. All I could see was Chloe's face, contorted with a righteous fury. And then, that fury found its true target. Her eyes, burning with a venom I had never seen, locked onto mine. She took a step towards me, and the crowd seemed to shrink back, creating a stage just for the two of us. "And you," she spat, the word dripping with accusation. I was frozen, clutching my baby to my chest, as if he were a shield. "You were out of my wedding. You and your lies." She made a gesture that encompassed my home, my garden, the very party I was hosting for her. "I want nothing from you. Do you hear me? I want a gift back." The final phrase was designed to inflict maximum damage. It wasn't just an accusation of infidelity. It was a public stripping of my generosity, a reframing of my love as a Trojan horse for betrayal. The bridge I'd spent years building had just been blown to pieces, and I was stranded on the wrong side. My blood ran cold. The silence in the garden was absolute, broken only by Leo stirring in my arms with a small cry, as if he could feel the poison in the air. Liam looked like he'd been struck by lightning. "Chloe, have you lost your mind?" He whispered, his voice hoarse with disbelief. "What are you saying? Don't lie to me," she shrieked, turning on him. "I see how you look at her. I see how you hold that baby." It was then that Mark finally moved. He came to my side, but he didn't wrap his arm around me. He didn't scream at his sister. He reached for my elbow, his grip tight, his face pale with a frantic sort of panic. "Clara, please," he muttered, his voice low and urgent, his eyes darting around at the horrified guests. "Let's just go inside. Don't make it worse. You know how she gets." I looked at my husband, my partner, the man who was supposed to be my defender, and in his eyes, I didn't see righteous anger on my behalf. I saw fear. Fear of his sister's tantrum. Fear of the scene. Fear of the fallout. He wasn't looking at me, his shattered wife. He was looking at her, his volatile sister. In that moment, I realized I wasn't just fighting Chloe. I was fighting years of their toxic family dynamic, and I was losing. The spell broke. Liam, his face a mask of disgust and hurt, turned and walked away. He didn't run. He walked with a chilling deliberateness out of the garden, out of the party, and out of Chloe's life. The guests, not knowing what else to do, began to evaporate, murmuring apologies, their eyes avoiding mine. They were fleeing the scene of a disaster. My mother-in-law rushed to Chloe, who had finally crumpled into sobs, the performance over. "Oh, my poor baby," Carol cooed, stroking her hair. "You're just under so much stress." I stood alone on the patio, amidst the beautiful wreckage of my efforts. The scent of roses now seemed sickly sweet, the music a mocking echo. I was the host of a party that had ended in my own execution, and my own husband, my partner in life, had just asked me to go quietly. The days that followed the bridal shower were a masterclass in gaslighting. My home, once a sanctuary, became a command center for a pressure campaign led by my own in-laws, with my husband acting as their reluctant, tormented lieutenant. The narrative was set, and it was maddeningly simple. Chloe was the victim of stress, and I was the key to making it all better. "Just take the test, Clara," my mother-in-law, Carol, pleaded over the phone, her voice thick with manufactured concern. "For the family. Think of what this is doing to poor Chloe. We could put this all behind us and save the wedding." Save the wedding. That became their mantra. Not support Clara, not address Chloe's baseless and cruel accusation, but save the wedding. My humiliation, my integrity, my son's legitimacy. It was all secondary to the preservation of the family's public face and a party that had been paid for with my money. The worst part was Mark. He was caught in the middle, torn between his loyalty to me and a lifetime of conditioning to appease his sister. We'd have circular conversations that went nowhere. "I know you didn't do anything, honey. I know it," he'd say, pacing the living room. "But if we don't do this, she's going to completely fall apart. The whole family will be torn apart. Isn't peace worth one simple, stupid test?" "Peace, Mark." I finally snapped, my voice raw. "Whose peace? Hers?" The peace she shattered when she called me a cheating liar in front of 50 people? Why is her peace more important than my dignity? Our first real, ugly fight ended with him retreating to the guest room. The silence in the house was heavier than any argument. That night, I hit my darkest hour. It was 3 in the morning. The house was still and dark, the only sound the soft breathing of Leo sleeping in my arms. I sat in the nursery rocker, scrolling through the photos on my phone from that horrible day. I stopped at one taken just minutes before the explosion. I was smiling, a genuine, unguarded smile, Chloe and my mother-in-law on either side of me. We looked like the perfect family. Then, my screen went dark, and I saw my own reflection, a pale, exhausted face with dark circles under my eyes, tear tracks staining my cheeks. I looked from my broken reflection down to my perfect son. He was so small, so innocent. His tiny hand was curled around my finger, his breath warm against my skin. And in that moment, something inside me shifted. A cold, hard resolve replaced the grief. They handed my son a story of shame before he could even hold his own head up. I thought, a tide of protective fury rising in me. They want to mark his life with a question mark. No, I am his mother. I will be the author of his truth. This ends now. The next morning, a call came that changed everything. It was from Sarah, a mutual friend of Liam's and mine who had been at the shower. Her voice was hesitant, full of guilt. "Clara, I can't stop thinking about what happened," she started. I think I know why she did it. It's not new. She told me that after I had gone inside, Chloe had a complete meltdown, throwing a box of old keepsakes across her room. Sarah had stayed to help her clean up the mess. I saw something she'd ripped out of an old journal of Liam's. She thought I didn't see it, but I did. My heart pounded. "What was it?" "I took a picture," she whispered. A second later, my phone buzzed. I opened the image. It was a photo of a single, crinkled diary page, dated 3 years ago, before Liam and Chloe were even serious. The handwriting was Liam's. It read, "Clara has a strength and grace I've never seen. She's intelligent and kind, and she doesn't even seem to know it. She's the kind of woman I hope to find someday." It was like a key turning in a lock. This wasn't a sudden, stress-induced paranoia. This was a deep-seated, obsessive jealousy that had been festering for years. My son's face was just an excuse, the final piece she needed to justify her long-held conviction that I was a threat. The knowledge didn't hurt me. It armed me. That afternoon, I looked at Mark, my eyes clear and steady for the first time in days. "Fine," I said. "I'll take the test." Relief washed over his face, but I held up a hand. "On my terms. This is for you, and you alone, so that you can erase every last shred of doubt her poison has put in your mind. No one else will ever know we did this. This is not for her. It is for us." I went to a private lab that afternoon and paid cash. Then I made another appointment. The lawyer, a woman named Eleanor Vance, had a reputation for being a shark in a designer suit. I sat in her sleek, minimalist office and laid everything out. The public accusation, the list of witnesses, the $30,000 in receipts, and the photo of the diary page. I spoke with a cold, dispassionate clarity. She listened without interruption, her fingers steepled. When I finished, she gave me a sharp, validating nod. "This isn't a family squabble, Mrs. Harrison," she said, her voice crisp. "This is defamation, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and a clear-cut case of promissory estoppel. We can get every cent back, and then some. The question is, are you prepared to go to war with your family?" I looked at her, the image of my son's sleeping face in my mind. "I'm not at war with my family," I said. "I'm defending it." The DNA results came back 2 days later, confirming what I already knew, 100% probability that Mark was Leo's father. I made him look at the paper, then we burned it together in the kitchen sink, watching the ashes curl into nothing. It was a cleansing ritual. My newfound peace was short-lived. That evening, Chloe showed up at our door unannounced. She pushed past Mark when he opened it, her eyes wild. She had come to discuss the terms of the test, assuming I'd caved to her demands. She saw us standing together, a united front, and something in her snapped. "You've brainwashed him," she screamed at me. Her eyes darted around the room and landed on a pair of crystal champagne flutes on the mantelpiece, a custom wedding gift I had ordered for her and Liam. She lunged for them, and with a guttural cry of rage, smashed them on the hardwood floor. Shards of crystal flew everywhere. "Get out, Chloe," I said, my voice dangerously calm as I instinctively stepped in front of Mark. That's when she slapped me. Her hand cracked across my cheek, the force of it snapping my head to the side. The sting was sharp, shocking. But the sound of the slap had an even greater effect on my husband. It was the sound that finally, irrevocably, woke him up. The lifetime of conditioning shattered in an instant. He moved so fast I barely saw it, placing his body between me and his sister. His voice, when he spoke, was a low, terrifying growl I had never heard before. "Get out of my house," he said. "Mark, I said, "Get out," he repeated, taking a step toward her. For the first time, Chloe looked afraid. She saw that the dynamic had permanently changed. The brother who had always placated her was gone. "You are no longer my sister," he said with chilling finality. "You need help, but you will not get it from us." As she scrambled out the door, her face a mess of tears and disbelief, Mark was already on the phone, his voice steady and clear. "Yes, I'd like to report an assault." The war had begun. The police report from the assault became the unshakable cornerstone of our legal strategy. Sitting in Eleanor Vance's office, I felt a strange sense of detachment, as if I were observing someone else's life. The sterile scent of paper and the quiet authority of the room were a stark contrast to the emotional chaos of the past weeks. Eleanor laid out the plan with precision. We filed a multi-pronged lawsuit that left no room for negotiation. It was a declaration that the time for quiet suffering was over. The first part was a straightforward claim for the money, over $30,000 for breach of contract, since the wedding was now officially canceled. The second was for defamation, citing the public humiliation at the shower with a list of 50 witnesses. The third was for assault and battery, supported by the police report and photos of the red mark on my cheek. Finally, we petitioned for a permanent restraining order. It was a legal fortress built brick by brick from my pain. As expected, Chloe's first move was to run to her parents. Carol and Tom tried to intervene, calling Mark and begging him to be the bigger person and drop the lawsuit. "You're destroying your sister," Carol wailed over the phone. Mark's response was a revelation. "She destroyed herself, Mom," he said, his voice hard as steel. "She assaulted my wife in my home. Clara is my family. This is not up for discussion." He hung up, and in that moment, I knew our marriage had not only survived, but had been reforged into something far stronger. The legal process grinds slowly, but it is relentlessly thorough. During the discovery phase, Eleanor's team uncovered something that turned the tide completely. Desperate, and realizing the witness list was stacked against her, Chloe had done something truly unforgivable. She had tried to bribe one of her own bridesmaids, a woman named Jessica who had been at the shower. Eleanor's team found the email chain. "Just say you heard Clara and Liam talking privately, that it seems suspicious," Chloe had written. "I'll give you $5,000 from the settlement. Nobody will get hurt." When Eleanor presented this evidence, it was the final, fatal blow. It transformed Chloe's actions from a hysterical outburst to a calculated, malicious, and criminal campaign. It was no longer just about a lie. It was about the conspiracy to perpetuate that lie for financial gain. That was the catalyst for my in-laws. The knowledge that their daughter had attempted to suborn perjury was a line even their blind love could not cross. It was Carol who called me, not Mark. Her voice was thin, broken. "Clara," she began, and then paused, taking a shaky breath. We didn't raise a monster, but we allowed one to grow. We were so busy protecting her from her own pain that we never made her take responsibility for the pain she caused others. She was crying now, quiet, defeated sobs. "We are so sorry. We will tell the truth." And they did. They provided sworn affidavits to our lawyer, detailing Chloe's history of emotional manipulation and confirming everything they had witnessed at the shower. They chose to support the truth, even if it meant condemning their own daughter. It was a tragic, painful act of redemption, and it completely crippled Chloe's case. Facing a mountain of irrefutable evidence, with no allies left, Chloe folded. She settled out of court. The agreement was ironclad. She was to repay the full cost of the wedding, plus damages for the assault and defamation. It forced her to liquidate her savings and sell the car I knew she loved. The permanent restraining order was granted, legally barring her from contacting me, Mark, or our son. She was left isolated, financially devastated, and a pariah in the family she had so carelessly fractured. There was no triumphant celebration. When the final papers were signed, Mark and I just held each other in the quiet of our living room. It was over. We had won, but it felt less like a victory and more like the end of a long, brutal war. In the months that followed, we began to rebuild. We started couples counseling, not because our bond was broken, but because we wanted to learn how to build healthier boundaries and process the trauma together. We learned to operate as a true unit, a fortress of two, with our son Leo at its heart. Liam remained a friend, a beloved honorary uncle to Leo, forever bonded to us by the shared ordeal. Mark's parents slowly, carefully, began to rebuild their relationship with us, this time on our terms, with a new and profound respect for the boundaries I now enforced. Today, my garden is peaceful again. It's been almost a year. Leo is toddling now, his delighted squeals filling the air as he chases a bright blue butterfly across the lawn where the party once stood. I watch him, my heart a complicated mix of fierce love and a quiet, lingering sorrow. I won. I won back my money. I won back my husband's heart completely. I won back my name. But I couldn't win back the family I once dreamed of having. That family never truly existed outside of my own hopeful imagination. I had to bury a fantasy to build a reality. And while this new reality is built on the solid, unshakable ground of truth and self-respect, I know it will always carry the faint, shimmering ghost of the family I tried so hard and failed to save. They say you can't choose your family, but I learned you can choose to save yourself from them. You can choose to draw a line in the sand so deep that it protects your peace and defines your worth.